link this to other places. And I have to, yeah. All right, so setup's going to take me a second. I have to find it, for starters. There we go. Hang on. I don't want this to play. I want the link. Here we go. All right. And of course, decides to give out. Okay. And then share. There was going to be a first chapter reading, but I'm awkward on video and really awkward reading out loud, so I decided that was not a good combination for a live stream. So I will try to record one and share it later. Okay. Got it linked everywhere it needs to be linked. Now I just have to turn on the Instagram live. There are so many pieces. Okay. All right. Then. Okay. And now we are ready for questions. All right. And I can't actually figure out how to title a live stream in Instagram. Oh, hang on. Let me see if putting the other earbud in works. Helps. Any better? I can also adjust the volume, I think. All right, so doing a Calligraphy Guild Q&A for launch day. Let me see. Audio. Oh, well, it's not. That's the problem. There we go. That should be better. Is that before or after I switched to the microphone, Laura? It also might just be me. Sometimes I talk quieter than I think I'm talking, and it's problematic. Okay, it looks like all of my settings are okay, good. All right. So just, yeah, I was on the wrong microphone to begin with, so I don't know what microphone it was using actually. So that's good. I'm sorry, I decided to fail the first chapter reading. Got more people over on Instagram. Hello. I didn't change anything. I don't know what it's doing.
Hang on. Let me check my microphone again. It also could be my hair causing problems with the earbud. What is the microphone doing? No, I don't know where the problem is. Sounds like an almost unintelligible demon robot. Wow, that's fantastic. Um, yeah, I don't know what the microphone's problem is or how to fix it, which is, hang on, I wonder, good description. No, it's not a battery issue with the earbud. Oh, yay, it's working again. All right, so it just, I don't know. I guess it was just a random glitch. Hopefully it doesn't do that again. Had enough things not work today. I am done with things not working. Alright, so, any questions that y'all have about Calligraphy Guild, the publishing, or the story? I am going to try to keep it spoiler free. However, I will do one with spoilers in like a month once more people have had a chance to read the book. I have an intruder. Okay. I have a backup microphone now, so that's good. So the process or the story or the characters or the world. I'm always happy to answer questions about the world because it's very fun and I like it a lot. But yeah. And of course I have tea because yes, so I do have plans for spoilers later. Just not tonight. But yes, I think that would be really fun once more people have read it. Actually, given how many people have read it in like the arcs and beta reading and everything, it would probably be pretty fun now. But ooh, what were your favorite and least favorite parts of creating the book? And okay, favorite is really hard because there are so many things that I loved about Calligraphy Guild. Least favorite. That one's also hard because there were so few things. Let's see. There was my last set of edits or so was a little bit trickier. I had some suggestions on it that I wasn't a huge fan of and had to kind of work around and figure out, okay, what's actually good about this advice and how can I use that without necessarily following the exact suggestion that I didn't like. Um, so that was tough. And then there have been a bunch of technical glitches here and there, especially in the last few stages. So that's been annoying. My favorite part, I guess, just watching it all come together, which is a really vague answer because it encompasses like a lot of things. There were a lot of things, specific things come to mind that just came together at different points. Um, but yeah, just seeing everything come together and work and all of that, it was really neat. Ooh. Did you ever doubt that Calligraphy Guild was a story you should be telling, and were there points where you felt God was speaking through you? Um, I This particular story has been pretty low on doubts. There was one point, let's see, was it last? No, fall before last. Um, I was having trouble with being okay with the pacing. It's intentionally slow paced, but that's not very popular. And a lot of readers kind of have trouble with that. Don't enjoy it as much. It takes them longer to get invested in the story. Um, so for a little bit, I was nervous about that and was like, should I keep this slow pacing? Should I speed it up? Um, and then I read Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh, slow pacing for exactly the same reasons that I'm pacing Calligraphy Guild slow. Um, and that was really encouraging to me, was to see that done in a obviously very successful book, um, for very similar reasons, and to see that, yeah, there are readers who enjoy that, who like that and appreciate that. So yeah. And that same doubt kind of cropped up a handful of times. Sort of every time I got feedback on it, someone would mention, your opening is really slow. I was like, should I change it or should I keep it? And I waffled back and forth like 5 separate times. There was actually one point where I tried an alternate opening and didn't like it. um, but yeah, so I waffled back and forth on that particular point several times. But overall, I've been pretty confident about Calligraphy Guild and the way that I wrote it and the way I felt it needed to be written and all of that. Pacing of Calligraphy Guild is one of my favorite things about it. It works so well in the story, and the pacing is great. I love it. So that, thank you. That's very encouraging. and and I've heard a lot of that too since finishing it. So yeah, it's been kind of reassuring to be like, yeah, I made the right decision there. Um, but yeah, that was a bit of a challenge there for a bit. And then the second question, were there points where you felt God was speaking through you? Yes and no. Um, I kind of feel like the whole thing, I know that God has a purpose for it, and He's used it to encourage so many readers already, and I know He's going to continue to do that. Um, and all of the themes are things that are very important that I think, um, like He kind of spurred me to write. Um, so I mean, in a sense, yeah, kind of. The whole book, I think, is sort of that way, but it's also, I mean, it's still my very fallible words and, um, kind of my own story to a degree. So yes and no. It depends on how strongly you mean that, I guess. Hi, Lacey. I'm really bad at filling empty spaces. It's like, as once you give me a question to answer, I can go and go and go. But then as soon as I'm done answering the question, it's just like, what now? How does Calligraphy Guild relate to you and your personal experiences? Oh boy. Um, well, um, wow. So many things are popping into my head right now. Um, man. All right. Well, I'll just start with one of the coolest things. Actually happened after the fact. Um, so in the beginning of the story, we see that Zuyan is super, super excited about working with the calligraphers. It's like her dream job, has so much purpose for her, and the people, the community is just, she adores the people. It fills her with this giddy joy. Um, and I mostly wrote that from imagination to begin with. That sounds bad. Like, I'd never experienced that before, and I don't exactly mean that, but like, it wasn't something I could tie to a specific personal experience. Um, but then I went and I worked at a horse farm in Ohio, and after coming back, because I did feel exactly that feeling while I was there. I was just like, it was such a cool environment, and I just constantly felt so blessed to have been put there, to get to work with those people and do what I did, and just see um all of what God had designed and like orchestrated and all of that. It was just super cool. And then I came back and I dove right back into Calligraphy Guild, and I reread that first chapter and saw that description of Zwin's feelings, and I was like, I know that feeling now. That's such a cool feeling. So that's one thing where I can really point to that and be like, I know that feeling. That's very specific to me. Um, but yeah, there are so many things. I mean, I can read through the story and it's just like, oh, that line reminds me of that person, and that line reminds me of that person, and that line reminds me of that thing, and it's just, yeah, there are so many pieces in there. A lot of them weren't even intentional. It's just like going back and reading it later. It's like, oh, hey, I know where that came from out of my brain. And like I didn't even connect them intentionally on purpose, knowingly. It was just like afterward I found that it had slipped in there, and it was, yeah, there are a lot of those that are just really cool. um, is there anything you'd have done differently with the story or process now that you can see the whole thing from the other side? Good question. Um, I wouldn't have procrastinated so long on my copy edits. I took way too long. Actually, it might have been the line edits. I don't remember. It was one of the last two rounds of edits, and I procrastinated on it for like a month. And if I hadn't procrastinated on it for so long, then I would have been able to get through the last like technical things, like going over proofs and all of that a lot faster. And as it is, the paperbacks are still not live yet because I ordered a proof and I paid the extra shipping so it would get here yesterday so I could check it over and approve it for today. And then Amazon misdelivered it. So I don't have it and I can't approve it. So hopefully that'll get resolved in the next couple of days. But basically, if I'd had the buffer that I should have had, if I just hadn't procrastinated on that one set of edits, we'd be golden right now and the paperback would be available and everything would be fine. So, yeah, that's that's the biggest thing I would change. It's just not procrastinating for a month on that one set of edits because that was just ridiculous. um, did you always intend the traitor to be who the traitor was, or did it change? It's funny, I was literally just thinking she does so well under pressure when there's nothing to do. Amazing. Yet no, I kind of feel like I just sit here and look awkward. Yeah, but yeah, the traitor was always the traitor. I had that, I think. Actually, I don't think anyone else was ever the traitor, but it might have taken me until the end of the book to figure out who the traitor was. I don't remember actually. It was a while ago now, so yeah, I don't remember. But that was always the original traitor. So, do you have any plans for an audiobook and or dramatization, which I would love to see? Um, I don't have any concrete plans. However, Emma has offered to do an audiobook at some point. So if I ever decide to do that, I have a narrator. Um, so perhaps eventually. I also think it would be super cool to turn it into a manga or something visual. Um, I just think that would be really neat. and a manga would fit well with the Asian fantasy sort of genre. So, but yeah, that's probably a ways down the road because it'd be really expensive. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool to do eventually. Emma is still very, very annoyed with the trader. Yes, yes, I think a manga would be. I don't actually read manga. Um, I don't think I've ever read one in my life, but they're a really cool art style, and I have a particular appreciation for at least the idea of them since reading, oh, what's it called? Understanding Comics by Scott something. I don't remember his last name. Um, but yeah, that book was really interesting to look at how different categories of comics handle pacing. So yeah, I would like to read more eventually, but I don't know where to start and haven't asked anybody yet. So I should eventually ask somebody. If it was made into one, I would definitely read it. I've never really gotten into them before, though. Scott McCloud. I was right! That was actually what was in my head, and I was like, is that right, though? So, yes, but I remembered it. Cool. Oh, here we go. Did knowing the trader from the beginning change the development process for them in comparison to other characters? Um, well, again, I don't remember if I actually knew when I started writing, but um, a little bit. I actually had more trouble with that particular character, um, sorting out motivations and like character details and stuff. Um, that particular character didn't really solidify for a few drafts. Um, but then once he solidified, it was much easier to develop the character and have the interactions with other characters work well. Um, yeah, the scenes with that character are some of my favorite now because they have so much hidden meaning in the dialogue. So yeah, it influenced edits, I think, more than drafting or planning. Of course, part of that is because I skipped half the planning stage because I was too excited about writing the book. Um, but yeah, so it made a difference in editing primarily. Also, petition to make Studio is it Ghibli or Ghibli? I don't actually know. I've never said it out loud. Um, to make them adapt Calligraphy Guild. I think it would capture the community and feelings and atmosphere so well. That would be really neat. Um, don't know if that'll ever happen, but that would be really neat. Mm. This is a good question that I'm not sure I can answer. How did you successfully edit it all to avoid revealing who it was too early? First of all, I think whether or not it was successful would depend on who you ask. Probably different readers would would see that differently. Um, but I'm glad it was. I'm I'm glad you think it was successful because that was one of the things I was concerned about was not revealing it too early. Um, Part of it I think was I added a lot of scenes. There's one scene where it's most obvious, I think, before the actual reveal, and I did add more scenes before that in some of my later edits. Um, I think I think adding more scenes, giving more depth to all of the characters and all of that helped. And then in one of the last drafts, I added a red herring that I think probably helped. Um, and actually, there was an unexpected red herring that multiple readers So they were like, I think it's this character. And I was like, ooh, that's interesting. Didn't even intend for that to be distracting. So, yeah, I think, um, yeah, just kind of adding some suspicious behavior from other characters and adding more, just kind of changing the pacing and where particular plot points fell, um, so that the scene that probably kind of gave it away wasn't as early. But yeah, that was a challenge though, was trying to hint at it, foreshadow it without giving it away. So yeah, that was. I'm glad it worked though, mostly at least. Someday, can you please write a story with Ryu with his kids? That would honestly be adorable. That is an amazing idea, and I should do that at some point. Um, I do one of the concepts rattling around in my brain for a follow up, short story or novella or something does have to do with Ryu and Zuyen. Um, so yeah. Uh, but yeah, I hadn't thought to write about Ryu with his kids. That would be adorable. It'd probably just be a short story, but it'd be really fun. Still got like, well, I say 20 minutes. It's probably closer to half an hour. The laptop clock is 10 minutes fast, and I can't fix it. But then again, I was planning for an hour with the chapter read aloud that I bailed on, so we might cut it off early if there aren't enough questions to warrant a full hour, which would be fine. Ooh, ooh, I already like. I haven't even read the whole question. I already like this question. Um, so much of Calligraphy Guild seems to contradict or counter modern young adult. Like the good, hang on, wrong emphasis. Like the good parental figures, involve families, respect for the elderly, etc. Did you counter that intentionally? Absolutely. Yes, that was very intentional. Um, young adult, the young adult tropes, uh, currently, they kind of drive me nuts. Um, I'm so tired of dead parents and mentor figures that are just kind of tolerated. Although those are those are less common, I feel like, than some of the others. But like dead parents and toxic relationships and uh, just lots of living in the moment too, and like living for the moment instead of having any vision for the future, um and just like not taking responsibility for things, just so many young adult things, just I they drive me nuts. So yes, Calligraphy Guild is intentionally the opposite of all of those things. um it definitely was really important to me to put in good quality families, that the main characters don't resent. The main characters actually appreciate and love and are sad to be separated from, and um, and characters who have visions for the future and things that they want, like long-term things that they want to build. Um, and older characters who are respected for their wisdom and their advice and just, yeah, lots of things that I definitely wanted to uh, go against because, yeah, we need more healthy examples in young adults. I mean, we need more healthy examples in fiction in general, but especially in the young adult section, I think. So, yeah, I I really wanted to work on that with this book in particular. It was just a really good. This story was particularly well suited to countering all of those things at once, because of the world where it takes place. It naturally supports all of those themes. Whereas some of my other stories, I still want to do that, but it's going to look different. There's some things that aren't going to be highlighted as much. There's some things that are going to be highlighted through less than ideal situations, because of different worlds and different cultures and different characters too. Um, so, and there's a little bit of that in Calligraphy Guild too. You do see there are some characters whose families in particular are less than ideal. Um, and so I don't shy away from showing things being broken either. But I really appreciated with Calligraphy Guild, it was a really great opportunity to show those things intact and whole and, um, yeah, just to show really health. So, yes, good question. Hi, Jane. Thank you for not putting a love triangle in, by the way. Yeah, no, no. I don't even I don't even know which characters I would have put in a love triangle. Like, there's honestly, this whole book is so low on the romance, which I really appreciate, and I actually tend to struggle with. I tend to be a hopeless romantic who can't help but put at least one relationship in my books. Um, and I mean, this one does have a couple, but it's, yeah, normally my characters are just like constantly falling in love, and this one didn't. This one, it's like, yeah, they're together, and like they're married side couples. Um, and yeah, but like other than that, like none of the characters even really. There are a couple that I'm like, they might end up together very far down the line, but like it's not part of this story or even like any of the stories that I'm planning to write after it. Um, but yeah, like none of the characters, I don't think most of the characters would have even worked paired up. So, will we ever get the story of Ryu and Zuian's meeting? Fun fact, I've actually already written it. um, it's very short. I wrote it as a writing exercise for a writing class I was taking. Um, it's not a full story by any means, but it does exist, and that's actually why I was able to reference it in Calligraphy Guild. Um, whether or not it will ever be shared, I'm not sure. I'd have to edit it at least, um, but we'll see. Ah, how are the various kinds of dragons in Calligraphy Guild different, and how are they separated into different groups of dragons, if that makes sense? Um, okay, so first of all, there are big dragons and there are miniature dragons. Those are just a matter of breeding, I think. I haven't fully figured out the mechanics, but um, the mechanics of like how all of the dragons work and the different breeds and everything. But I think that size is just a breeding thing. Um, dragons have 4 legs and 2 wings. Wyverns have 2 legs and 2 wings. Drakes have 4 legs and no wings, and amphitheaters have 2 wings and no legs. So it's a matter of physiology, which are which. Um, but yeah. So, and they have different natural personalities too. So wyverns tend to be, they tend to have a little bit more attitude. They also have more of a variety, I think, in personality. The wyverns do. They're sort of they're kind of in the middle. They can be a number of things. Drakes are very territorial, protective, that sort of thing. So they're often sort of like guard dogs. Um, and then amphitheaters are very hyper. Um, they're very chipper and upbeat and happy and excitable. And there's a reason that Emiko is kept in a cage because otherwise he will dart all around Zen's office and ruin everything. So yeah, they're hyper. And then dragons and wyverns are sort of in the middle, um, as far as all that goes. And then generally, the bigger a dragon is, the more serious the dragon. So like the guardians are humongous, and they are very. Now, part of this is um, the guardians have a particular job that they've been assigned, so and they take that job seriously. But part of why they're good for that job is because they take things seriously. So it's um, sort of a two-way thing there. Just trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. Will we ever get any sort of reference guide to the world of Calligraphy Guild? So, I have a World Anvil account that here I'll put a link in there. My World Anvil has it doesn't have as much information on there as I would like. I don't use it as often as I would like, but it is sort of a hub for the information about Tizaren. So yeah, and eventually I plan to flesh it out. Um, I flesh it out when I have time, and unfortunately haven't had a lot of that recently. But yeah, let me just grab this because there is some on here. I don't remember how much there is about dragons. There's some cultural stuff in here. But there's a lot on parts of the world besides Beryllia. So if you want hints as to other sorts of stories I might be writing, um, there's a lot to speculate about on there. Here, he'll share the fluff. The fandom needs it. And Miko is my absolute favorite thing about Calligraphy Guild, and that is saying something. Yeah, Amiko is adorable. He can't be trusted to behave himself. um, was there any character that was especially challenging for you to write? The traitor to begin with, um, and then that particular character got easier to write as time went on. But to begin with, the traitor was challenging. Um, there were also Mika was a little bit tough because I didn't want readers to just dislike Mika, but she's got a lot of bitterness pent up, so it's really easy to dislike her. So she was a challenge as far as trying to find little ways to be like, she's not as bad as you think. She just needs love and um to she needs grace and encouragement and support um and healing and all of that. So yeah. I think that's most of them. Oh, Zwein though. Zwein was hard to write, which is weird because she has a lot in common with me, but I think maybe that was the problem. um it was really hard to get in her head. and figure out what she was thinking and feeling. Um, so yeah, Zuyan was tricky too. I know some authors don't. I'd like to get clear guidance on this. Do you allow fan fiction by any chance? Um, I won't disallow fan fiction. I am slightly nervous about fan fiction as a general concept because I know people can take it weird directions. But I mean, as far as like the people that I know who write like you, I would not mind you writing fan fiction. Um, so yeah, I'm neutral on fan fiction. Um, my personal favorite kind of fan fiction is the type that takes place in the same world and explores the world some more. Um, maybe alludes to some of the characters, but doesn't necessarily focus on them. But that's just me. Um, and yeah, it's just because I tend to have trouble making sure that characters are accurate to the way they were first written. Um, but yeah, that's me from a writing standpoint mostly. So yeah, if you want to write fan fiction, go for it. That sounds like it would be really interesting to see what you focus on and what you come up with. So can we get an Amiko short story at some point? I feel like his narration would be amazing. I actually had not thought to write from any of the dragon's perspectives, but you're right. Amiko's narration would be Amiko's narration would be like the narration of a toddler. It would be so fun. Really, really hard to pull off, but fun. That could be interesting. To do like a set of short stories from the dragon's perspectives. That'd be interesting. That would be amazing. I feel like it could be kind of like the Pixar short Jack Jack Attack. Yeah, that's basically what a short story from Amiko's perspective would be. Just chaos. Just toddler like chaos. Is that a yes? That is a maybe. That is a maybe. Um, at the moment, I'm not making any promises on anything related to Calligraphy Guild because I've been working on it for 3 years and I love the story and the world and the characters and all of that, but I kind of need a break. So, yeah, I will jot down y'all's ideas because they're amazing and they sound like they could be very fun to explore. But yeah, no promises on any sort of timeline is the thing. It's like I will probably get to this eventually, but there are a lot of stories I've said that about. So, um, but I am certainly open to the ideas. There are definite maybes. Could we ever get Lampaya's story? I really want to read it. So much emotions and stuff. That would be interesting. That one would be difficult in a different way because it would be difficult to get the emotions right and not just have it be really heavy. But that could be interesting. Of course, then I'd have to figure out because I haven't actually. Sorry, I inhaled tea. Um, I have the gist of Lampaya's story, obviously, but no like details. Like I don't even know. I don't even know how long ago it was that she started having problems with the dragons. So yeah, I don't know. I'd have to do some brainstorming there, but that's another one that could be interesting to explore. I do not recommend inhaling tea. It is not good for your health. This is just plain sweet black tea. Ooh. If you could literally enter Verilia, where would you go and what would you do? Oh man. um well, I mean I'd have to go to the Calligraphy Guild. I mean, the Calligraphy Guild is like wish fulfillment. It's like just a place where writers go and write together. And like all of the books and scrolls they have in the library would be so cool to read and learn from. And and obviously the characters. I mean, I want to be friends with all of them. So yeah, I'd have to go to the Calligraphy Guild. Um, it would be fun to play Kyong too. That'd be fun. I'd be bad at it, but it'd be fun. um, yeah, and then I'd want to go to one of the bigger cities too, like Canova, and observe the difference. Um, yeah, and just experience the like hustle and bustle of the bigger city, but still with such an emphasis on the arts. Plus, there's so much beach in Verilia because it's just a big island, so that would be cool. The ocean is awesome. Um, yeah, there would be so much to see and do. Hopefully, it'll get over itself like it did last time. Oh yeah, I do not have the backup USB port. Hang on. Okay, I have a new mic.
There we go. Is that any better? The whole question. Darn. Okay, hang on. Fred. The last question was about. Okay, I think the last one was if you could meet only one character from Calligraphy Guild. Calligraphy Guild. There we go. I'm trying to talk too fast. Which one would you pick? And my answer was Mikio because he's a big brother friend to Zuian, which is like my favorite character dynamic trope thing. So he's awesome. Love him. It'd be awesome to meet him. And then what's the process of becoming a calligrapher? How do they discover new calligraphers? And is there ever anybody who isn't accepted to the Calligraphy Guild if they ask? Gotta stop talking so fast. So jobs in Verulia are very interest based. So like guilds are you don't really see this in Calligraphy Guild because so much weird is happening, but guilds are open to pretty much anyone in the community who wants to go and try that type of work. Um so guests to the Calligraphy Guild aren't allowed to work with dragon ink for obvious reasons. Um but they are allowed to like practice writing and prose and research and all of that. Everything that goes into calligraphy, short of actually writing in dragon ink and setting it in stone. Um, so, yeah. And then if they decide that they like it well enough, they're good enough at it, then they can take their trust test, which is mentioned briefly when Ryu is giving Jie a tour. Um, and at that point, that's a test of whether or not they will be honest with dragon ink. So yeah, and then after that test, then they're fully integrated into the guild as members. Um and that can be pretty much at any point because Verulia is also pretty loose about coming of age, like when you come of age. That's why Sakura is talking about, she's 14 and she's talking about her graduation dress and all of that. And she also is saying that she's not even sure if she's going to graduate soon. It's because her graduation is dependent on when she and her family think she's ready to fully join a guild and be an adult and that sort of thing. Um, so, I mean, I do think there's probably a certain point where it's like, if you're younger than this, you probably aren't ready to graduate. But yeah, I don't know specifically what it is. It's somewhere in the early teens, I think. Um, but yeah. So, and then at that point, they join the guild. Um, people aren't usually turned away permanently. If they fail their trust test, then they're turned away pretty much permanently, unless something drastic changes. But if they're just not, if their writing skill isn't where it needs to be, then they'll be encouraged to continue practicing and then join at a later date when they have more practice and they're more skilled. All right. Come over here and do one of these questions. Do Calligraphy Guild and the Story and Short Story Collection Volume 1, Kythen, happen close together time-wise? Kythen happens before Calligraphy Guild, I think. Hang on, I have a timeline. Let me look at my timeline. Let's see. 1614. And 1692. So, yeah. Kythen takes place after Calligraphy Guild by like 80 years. And Emma says Makio is incredible. So many of my annotations are me just being like, this guy is incredible. That's very cool. I like Makio. He's very cool. I accidentally clicked on Discord and that was a mistake because now I want to know what the conversation was. How frequently do events such as what happened in Calligraphy Guild happen? Not very. Because that's what the trust test is for. Other guilds that work with magic, particularly dragon scales are magical. The they have similar processes. So yeah, it's pretty unusual. It's slightly more common for an accidental mistake to be made. So there's a story. Actually, there are two people who are mentioned in one scene of Calligraphy Guild, where Ryu is basically saying that an accident couldn't have brought the dragon's wrath on them, because when there's an accident, the dragons can tell, and they then you destroy the one that had the document that had the mistake in it, and you rewrite it correctly. But yeah, so those are a little bit more common. But yeah, intentional breaches aren't particularly common. What if there aren't enough people to do any particular job because not enough are interested? So that's where people are mostly allowed to make their own choices as far as jobs go. They can be encouraged in particular directions. And also sometimes I think there are people enlisted from a particular job to go do another job, at least for a season, to support the community and take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. And in some cases, you take a calligrapher and ask them to work on the cattle ranch, and they end up liking it, and then they decide to do that more long term, or whatever. But yeah, so there is a balance, and for the most part, people in Verulia understand there are things that need to be done, and so they're willing to do those things, even if they're not their favorite. And if they decide they don't like whatever, can they just leave and try another thing? Usually. Yeah, there's not normally any reason for them not to do that. Sometimes if more people are needed in the particular thing they're trying to leave, they might be encouraged to wait a bit, or to stay or whatever, particularly if they're especially good at it, and just don't enjoy it as much. But yeah, generally they can move. There might be a time limit on, like, they might have to work with a particular guild for XYZ amount of time before they're allowed to leave, just to, like, so they're not hopping constantly from one thing to the next. But yeah. Ooh, that's interesting. It would be cool if there was a tester quiz to see if you'd be able to be part of the guild. Yeah. I have no idea how I'd put that together. No clue. But it's an interesting concept. Can you be in multiple guilds at once? Probably. It probably depends on which guilds. But yeah, if neither one is particularly demanding on your time, then yeah, you can probably do multiple at once. It's, I mean, like, particularly in the arts, it's fairly common for people to have multiple in the real world. It's fairly common for people to work multiple arts. So it's kind of the same concept in Verulia. What happens if there are people who simply don't want to work at all? What happens to them? Okay, so most of them grow out of it. Because the whole culture is very it instills values of hard work and supporting the community and all of that. Obviously there are situations where that falls apart and where that doesn't come to fruition exactly. In those cases, I'm not sure. Hadn't thought about it before. But yeah, I think in those cases, they're probably encouraged to just pick something and go do it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that particular situation a little bit more. How does education work in Calligraphy Guild? Is there a structure to it? And if so, how does that work? Yeah, so education in Calligraphy Guild is very interest driven. It's very much like unschooling. Um, Kids work with their families. They help with their families' chores and whatever business they do and arts and all of that. They're also encouraged to work with other members of the community, to go try different arts and different jobs and that sort of thing, as is appropriate to their particular maturity and strength and all of that. Um, so yeah, they very much learn by experience. Um, yeah, and it's very loose as far as structure is concerned, but there are certain situations that are more structured. So like certain guilds or even certain particular artisans might have more structure to their work. So it's like, okay, if you're gonna work with me, then you work with this structure and whatever. But as a whole, as a concept, it's pretty loose. What if you want to join a guild, have a great interest in it, but simply don't have the talent or ability for it? Um, Usually you'll be encouraged still to practice, to do it because you enjoy it. Um, yeah, it depends to some degree on which guild you want to work with and how involved you want to be. I mean, it it makes a difference. For example, if you are a calligrapher who just wants to write fiction versus a calligrapher who wants to work with dragon ink, or like Makio works with a glassmithing guild, but he doesn't use the magic dragon skill that a lot of his guildmates use, just because he's not comfortable with the magic. Um, so, I mean, yeah, the less magic is involved, the less responsibility, I guess, is involved. Um, the more freedom there is to engage and get involved, even if you're not the best at it. Um, so, yeah, it depends. That's a funny question considering because I think that came in before I started mentioning Makio, but I could be wrong. I might have prompted that question. I don't know. Do all guilds have magical ties, and could a calligrapher be part of their own guild without using the magic if they felt similarly? I basically just answered that. Yeah, so not all of the guilds have magical ties, but a good number of them do. So like dragon scale embroidery is a thing for seamstresses and tailors and that sort of thing. That's really neat with wedding dresses, but anyway, that's a different topic. Um, and then with glass blowing, dragon scales can be used similarly to glass. You do cool things with that. So most of the arts based guilds do have magical ties. Most of them through dragon scales. Um, but yeah, you can join a guild usually without uh, using the magical elements also. Does religion play any part in the magic in universe? If so, how do characters of differing religion from the world's true one reconcile with it? Um Okay. So the magic in Verilia
I was going to say in Dazaren, but Dazaren has a variety of magic systems, so this isn't true of all of them. The magic in Verulia is a part of the world. It's a naturally occurring thing. It comes from the dragons. So it's mostly a matter of who they think established the established the dragons, and the magic that they naturally possess. Um, so like the if for characters who believe in the Virilin pantheon, they largely attribute it to Rongon because he's their dragon god. Um, his name is really awkward to pronounce, according to Virilin pronunciation. Um, yeah, but then characters like Sersha, who believe in one god, one sovereign god, they obviously believe that he was the one to give that magic to the dragons and by extension people. Um, yeah, so there are other magic systems where that's a lot more of a question, but for Verilia's magic, it's mostly just a matter of okay, who do they think are responsible for the dragons? Does the world actually have a true religion? Yes, Sersha's is it. But Sersha, there's kind of a history to that religion. So there are different pieces to it, just like there are different pieces to Christianity, um, or other religions as well. But yeah, so there are some slightly differing beliefs in different cultures, in particular. Different cultures emphasize different things about the religion and the faith, and Arba, as is his original name. Um, so yeah, but yes, that is the true religion in world. Um, there are some others that sort of get close, and there are some that show different facets of truth, even though they're pretty far off. Um, and I'm really interested to work with some of those in stories eventually. Um, yeah, but yeah, there is one, and yeah, and I wanted to show that, give an example of that in Calligraphy Guild, alongside the Virilin pantheon that is hollow to pretty much all the characters who believe in it. So yeah, I wanted to give that hollow example on the one side, and then the more hopeful example on the other. And actually, we have been going for an hour and 10 minutes. So we actually went longer than I was anticipating. Are there any last minute questions before I wrap up? Oh, and I should put the purchase link for my book. That's kind of important. Yes. So there is a delay on the paperback is not available not available on Amazon yet. You can, if you're in the US, you can purchase it through my website, because it's going to take me a little bit to get the get stock to me to begin with. So it's not going to be a very noticeable delay there. But yeah, there was a misdelivery of my last proof copy, which means I can't approve it, which means I can't fully publish the paperback yet. But I am hoping to have that done in the next couple of days. I'm hoping that they will redeliver my proof, so that I can approve it, and I'm really, really hoping it's right so that I can approve it. Yeah, but ebooks are fine. The ebooks have been fine for several days. So there's at least an ebook. Once it's all up, will paperback be available through your website for non-US readers? Probably not, just because if you purchase through my website, it means I have to ship it. So then, well, I don't know. I might be able to figure out a workaround, but at least for now, probably not, because international shipping stinks. I hate international shipping. It is such a pain. Yeah. But it will be available through Amazon eventually. All right. Let's finish up with this question. What is the most important thing about Calligraphy Guild to you? There are so many things. Just it's very wholesome, I think, and it's very rooted in my worldview and my faith, and hope and all of that. So it's just, yeah. It's got a lot of truth in it, I think. I hope. And a lot of important themes. So yeah. Just the whole heart of it, I guess. Which I'm really hoping communicates to readers and encourages readers and edifies readers and challenges them too. Yeah. So that's the most important thing about it to me. Yeah, so there's a link to buy my book in the chat. There's a link in my Instagram bio. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. There's also a link in my bio to subscribe to my newsletter. You can also subscribe through my site, which is where this link will take you. Yeah. You can also find all of my other books on my site. Well, you can find links to all of my books on my site. So, yeah. Basically, my site is the hub. And there's a link in my bio, and there's a link here in the Facebook and YouTube chat. So, with that, thank you all very much for coming and for your questions. Those were great. I had a lot of fun answering those. Yeah, and I will talk to you later. I might do a recording of reading of the first chapter. We will see. If I do, it'll be shared about on all of my social media. Yeah, and the paperback will hopefully be available soon. Okay, I think I've actually covered everything now. So with that, good night.